in the long, winding story of Earth's past. There comes a moment when the planet no longer changes because of nature, but because of us. For billions of years, mountains rose, oceans spread, and continents drifted across the surface of the world like slow-moving giants. Life adapted, life survived, and life evolved, but then everything shifted. A new chapter began. Around 10,000 years ago, humanity, once just another creature wandering the wild, began to do something no species had ever done before. We didn't just live on the land, we started to shape it. We didn't just interact with each other, we shaped each other, and eventually, we shaped civilization itself. This is the story of how our world was transformed, not by ice or fire, but by ambition, by organization, and by the rising heartbeat of human creativity. It's the moment our story became the Earth's story. Picture the Earth at the dawn of this era. The deserts were vast and untamed. The rivers carved their own paths, wild and unpredictable. The forests were deep, dark, and largely unknown. And scattered across these vast landscapes were small groups of humans, hunters, farmers, and dreamers, each trying to carve out a life in a world that didn't always play fair. But slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, something extraordinary began to happen. Villages started to grow larger. Communities began to form connections, sharing knowledge and resources. Leadership emerged, not just through strength, but through wisdom and foresight. And for the first time, humans learned to build not just homes for their families, but societies for their people. They learned to tame the very rivers that once dictated their lives, directing the water to nourish their crops. They organized labor on a scale never before seen, working together to achieve goals that were impossible for any single person to accomplish alone. They created rules, shared beliefs, and forged identities that bound people together, transforming scattered groups into unified cultures. This was the beginning of something incredibly powerful, a new energy rising across the planet like a silent, unstoppable dawn. It was the birth of a new kind of force, one that would soon leave its mark on every corner of the globe. From the fertile plains of Mesopotamia, nestled between the Tigris and Euphrates, to the timeless, life-giving flow of the Nile, to the ancient valleys carved by the very first engineers, humanity began to build with a purpose far greater than mere survival. They weren't just building shelters anymore. They were building monuments to their ideas, their gods, and their ambitions. Every single brick of sun-dried clay, every stone meticulously carved, and placed every early law written down. And every clever invention became part of this new, world-shaping force, civilization. It was an idea made real, an engine of change that began to run on human ingenuity. Empires would rise, casting long shadows across history, and just as surely, empires would fall, leaving behind ruins and whispers for future generations to uncover. But their impact would ripple across continents, across eras, and across everything that came after. The world we know today was born in those first moments of collective creation, and that's just the beginning of the story. Have you ever wondered when humanity stopped just surviving and started conquering? When we went from small tribes huddled around a fire to vast empires stretching across continents, the answer lies in a period so transformative it set the course for all of history. The Age of Empires. Before this, our world was a wild, untamed place, shaped by ice ages and volcanic eruptions. But then, a new force emerged, more powerful than any natural disaster: human ambition. The story begins in the Fertile Crescent, along the life-giving rivers of Mesopotamia. Here, our ancestors achieved something miraculous. They learned to tame the unpredictable floods, turning chaos into order. This control over water led to abundant crops, and with that came a surplus of food. It might not sound like much, but that surplus was the key that unlocked everything. For the first time, not everyone had to be a farmer. People could become artisans, priests, soldiers, and rulers. Villages swelled into towns, and towns erupted into the world's first cities. These weren't just collections of houses, they were complex societies with laws, governments, and armies. They had dreams that stretched far beyond the next harvest, dreams of power, legacy, and expansion. This was the birth of the state, an idea that would change the world forever. But this spark of civilization wasn't burning in isolation. To the west, along the banks of the mighty Nile, another colossal power was rising. This was Egypt, the kingdom of the pharaohs. While Mesopotamia was focused on the here and now, Egypt was obsessed with eternity. Their entire civilization was geared towards defeating death and ensuring a legacy that would last forever. They developed a sophisticated understanding of engineering and mathematics, not just for practical purposes, but to build monuments to their gods and their divine rulers. They carved their beliefs into stones so massive, so enduring, that they still stand today, defying the sands of time. The pyramids weren't just tombs, they were statements. They declared that humanity was no longer just a temporary resident on this planet. We were here to stay, and we were powerful enough to build for eternity. As these new empires grew, their borders inevitably began to touch. And where ambition meets ambition, conflict is never far behind. This was an age of unprecedented warfare. Armies, numbering in the tens of thousands, clashed over fertile land, strategic trade routes, and even religious beliefs. It was a brutal, violent time, but it also forced humanity to learn a new skill: cooperation on a massive scale. To raise an army, build a fortress, or launch a naval expedition required a level of organization never seen before. This was the age of legendary generals, brilliant inventors, and visionary kings. Figures like Sargon of Akkad, who forged the world's first empire, or Ramesses the Great, who fought epic battles and built magnificent temples. Each one was a player in a grand, dangerous game, competing to leave their mark on a world that was being redrawn with every battle won and lost. But the Age of Empires wasn't just about war and conquest. It was also an age of incredible connection. Ideas began to travel at a speed that was previously unimaginable. New roads, like the Persian Royal Road, crisscrossed the land, allowing messengers and merchants to travel safely and quickly. Ships, guided by the stars, sailed across open seas, connecting distant cultures. With trade came the exchange of more than just goods. Knowledge flowed freely between civilizations. The advanced mathematics and astronomy developed in Babylon found their way to Egypt and Greece. The revolutionary techniques of ironworking discovered in Anatolia spread across the Near East, ushering in a new age of tools and weapons. And, perhaps most importantly, stories began to travel. Myths, legends, and religious texts spread from one culture to another, shaping identities and creating a shared human heritage. For the first time, a person in a port city in Greece might be using a mathematical concept from Babylon to navigate a ship built with techniques learned from Phoenicians. The world was becoming a web of interconnected knowledge. This intricate network of trade, war, and ideas laid the foundation for everything that followed. The empires of this era were like giant laboratories, experimenting with different forms of government, law, science, and art. The alphabet we use today has its roots in the scripts developed by ancient Semitic peoples. The principles of our legal systems can be traced back to Hammurabi's code. Our 24-hour day and 60-minute hour come from the Babylonians. These ancient civilizations weren't just relics of the past, they are the bedrock upon which our modern world is built. They wrestled with the same fundamental questions we do today. How do we build a just society? What is our place in the cosmos? What is the meaning of a good life? Their answers, carved in clay tablets and stone monuments, continue to resonate with us thousands of years later. Looking back, the Age of Empires was a pivotal turning point for humanity. It was the moment we stepped out of the shadow of nature and began to cast a long shadow of our own. It was a time of brutal conflict and beautiful creation, of monumental ambition and profound intellectual discovery. It wasn't the end of our story, not by a long shot. Instead, it was the launch pad. It set the stage for the rise and fall of countless other civilizations, from the Greeks and Romans to the Han and the Mauryans. It ignited a cycle of creation and destruction, innovation and tradition that continues to this day. The sparks that flew from the first forges and the first cities of this incredible age grew into a fire that would eventually engulf the entire globe, shaping the world we know today. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey back in time. If you found this story of our ancient past as fascinating as we do, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the moments that made us who we are. And don't forget to ring the notification bell so you never miss an episode. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Which ancient empire fascinates you the most? Until next time, stay curious.